want to tell you about some of my experiences of going to summer school at Duke and Emory. We, of course, was carpooling to save some on gas, but mostly we rode to Duke with Reverend Herb Stevens. Herb had a big old Pontiac that drank gas. I was living in Gaffney at the time, and every time he came by and picked me up, we'd go about 100 yards, and he'd pull in a service station and say, "We got to fill up with gas." And of course, he was meaning for me and my friend Pete Millwood to pay for the gas. That was a every week occurrence. And of course, same thing when we came back on Friday. We had a professor named Smith. He taught situation ethics at Duke. And of course, I didn't agree with a lot of stuff he said. And he told us in the beginning, said, "I don't care what you think," said, "when I ask you a question, you better answer it the way I said it." So on the final exam, I know at least once I put down on the final exam, "According to you, so-and-so." But I didn't put, "That's what I believe." But I said, "According to you, so-and-so happened." And he marked some big marks on it, and he said, "That's what I said on the paper." The next year we was up there, one of the other professors, and I can't remember his name, they had us read 3 books before we came up there. You were supposed to have already read them when we got there. And I'd read one of them and part of another one, and most of them about the same way in the class. The first day in class, he said, "How many of y'all read the books?" And of course, we all held up our hands because we had read part of them. He said, "Well, good." He said, "We're going to have our final exam today." And so he gave out an exam on the 3 books that day. Luckily, part of the questions I had read in that particular book. But when he got the papers back the next day, he said, "I know how many of you now have read the book." And then he started lecturing on them. But he never did give another exam, but he passed you, but he got us on reading the books. It made sure we read the books from then on. 3 years after we went to Duke, we went 3 years to Emory for summer school. And Buddy Morris and Pete Millwood and I went down for that together. I had just bought a new Chevrolet, and so the first week I was going to drive down. It was hot as blue blazes. We picked Pete up in Pickens. Pete said, "I can't wait to get in this new car and this air conditioning." The problem was the car did not have air conditioning. We rode to Atlanta with the windows down and it about 100 degrees in Atlanta. Pete was fussing the whole time about being down there with no air conditioning. But they drove the next week too. I never did drive blue back down there anymore because we didn't have air conditioning. But we got down to Atlanta for the first time, and none of us knew where Emory University was. We knew the general area. We pulled in this service station, and I think Buddy or maybe one of us, I don't know which one of us asked the man, said, "Where is Emory University?" He said, "Right across the street." And we were sitting right across the street from it and didn't even know where we were. We got in there and got registered. We went to dinner that night. In what they call Cox Hall. Cox Hall. We were going up through the line, and Pete was in front. He picked up his plate, and a cockroach ran out from under it. So he just set the plate back down, and we left and went to somewhere else. We never did eat anymore in Cox Hall. Never did eat a meal there because we were that first experience of seeing that cockroach. Well, there was a little place down the street there, a little small cafe, and we started eating down there. We had some good times laughing about eating down there and the cockroaches in the dining room and so forth. You could catch a bus from Emory uptown for 20 cents. In fact, you could ride all over Atlanta for 20 cents. You just get off wherever you want to. So we would do that. And occasionally we would drive the car up there. Well, one time we were driving the car up there. In fact, it was the first week when I drove. It was back during the time of the Hippies in the early 70s. and these ladies was walking the street with apron overalls on and no other clothes on. And we stopped at a red light, and Pete was sitting in the back seat, and this woman crawled in the back seat with him and crawled on out the other side while we stopped at the red light. That wasn't unusual for them to do that at that time. We kidded Pete about soliciting the woman off the street, and she saw who he looked like and went on out the other side of the car. One of the assignments down there was that we had to go up to a place called the truck stop, and we're supposed to go up there and witness for the Lord, and it was a place where truckers dropped off women that they had picked up along the way, and they would bring them down there truck stop, and they'd push them out, and they just wait there till they could catch a ride somewhere else. There was lots of hippies up there, men and women. They kept watching us. We went in a pizza place to eat lunch that afternoon, and this man come over and he said, "Who are y'all?" One of us spoke up and said, "Well, we preachers from out here in Emory," said, "we supposed to be down here witnessing to y'all." He said, "I don't believe you preachers." We said, "Yeah, we are." He said, "No, y'all down here trying to stir up something." And we all said, "No, we preachers." He said, "Okay, I'm going to see if you are." And he asked us about 20 questions about the Bible. And you talking about struggling. We were making sure we got the answer right on that thing. And we finally got him convinced that we were preachers. And he said, "Okay, I believe you now, but," said, "I'm going to tell you something. Y'all don't need to be down here." He said, "It's dangerous." He said, "Y'all need to be away from down here." So we loaded up and left immediately. One of the things that happened at Duke that was really funny to me was I played a joke on Herb. We were going to have a final exam one time, and it was a hard course, so we were studying for it, and Herb said, "It's really getting on my nerves." He said, "I'm going to take a nerve pill." And he had some pills, I don't even know what they were. Give me one of those things. He gave it to me, and he left out of the room. He was rooming with another man, and a preacher by the name of Paul Keel was rooming with me. And I told Paul, I said, "I'm going to play a trick on Herb." I said, "In about 30 minutes now, I'm going to roll over on my stomach and with my head down like I'm asleep. And you go up and tell Herb that you think I'm dead, that you think that pill has killed me." And I said, "I'll lay perfectly still when you do that." So about 30 minutes later, I told Paul, I said, "I'm ready." So I rolled over on my stomach and hid my head down in my hands like this. And he went up and knocked on the door, and Herb was already in bed. And he said, Herb, I think David's dead." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "He took that pill you gave him and said, I can't get him awake." Well, I could hear him coming down the hall. Herb come running in and grabbed me, trying to shake me. David. And luckily, I could just lay like I was limp, and I didn't make a noise or anything. He said, "Oh, what have I done? What have I done?" And I couldn't stand it any longer. I broke out laughing. I thought he was going to kill me for playing that trick on him, but I never did take his drug, and he never did offer me any more after that. But it was fun that night.